My name is Charlotte Woolford and I work in a school.
I'm Mal Woolford. I am a photographer.
At the hospital one day, I saw him there and then they called my name and I went through. And when I saw him a couple of days later, he said, but it was very strange. And I said, why is that? And he said, because when they said your name, I thought they were calling for me. And I couldn't understand how they would get my name. And I was like, what do you mean your name? And he said, because my name is Woolford. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, because my name is Woolford.
It's one thing to have the coincidence about the name, but then this underlying it, we kind of both had a sense of, it's not just a funny coincidence, there's something deeper and probably darker behind it. It's a kind of gift really, because Woolford is such an unusual name. It's easy to track. Within a few hours, made the connection for my 6 times great uncle. Left the family in Wiltshire and went to London, married somebody, and they and her brother went to Barbados, and those are the Woolfords who kind of stuck in the Caribbean. And that's where the small Woolford history in the Caribbean, across Barbados and British Guyana, and how people who were associated with the household would have just been given that name because they were part of the household.
Yeah, they were slaves. So your slaves had your name. It was no like, oh, whatever it is you want to be. No, you are now Woolford. It almost felt inevitable. Of course it's going to lead there. Of course. The minute he said Guyana, of course that's where my mum and where all my family comes from.
One of the reasons we've called the show No Relation is partly to say, well, we're not married and we're not blood related, but the whole thing that my assertion is that yes, there is a connection. The show is not about proving the connection. The show is about experiencing the connection.
The collection itself is sort of our journey through wet play and our journey getting to know each other better, and our journey as friends, and also the relationship between us and slavery. And for want of a better word, when you do look at the collection that we have, it tells its own story. It tells a story of our past, our ancestors.
The photographic problem is, how do I photograph something that happened 200 years ago?
So we did this whole thing at the beginning where I stood in the space, he took the photo, and then I would come out that space, he would go into that space, and then I would take the photo. And then it became very sort of partnership, like we were trying to sort of mimic the fact that we were in the same space at the same time, but who is occupying it, kind of thing.
The power relationship, when it's a photographer photographing a person, ideally you try and it feels like some kind of common connection that you're doing, but it still felt like a power relationship. So when we're working together with the wet plate, it's really kind of crafty, and you're handling things. So it was for Charlotte to go, actually I'll pull that one and I'll develop this one. And so that meant that the power relationship was, we get to co-author, and that suddenly felt this huge relief for me to go, I'm not taking, I'm not extracting. And what happened was, because of your acting training, that really started to come in terms of you were kind of mentoring me through being in front of the camera.
Yeah. Suddenly people who were not black, for want of a better word, white people, actually felt that it was a safe space in order to have that conversation and not be judged about it, to have a conversation about slavery and the connection between the two of us that was born of slavery. So it was interesting to hear those conversations as well, and the fact that they felt that they could talk about it, and quite a few people said they felt that they couldn't talk about it, especially if their skin colour was white, that they could never broach this subject because it's such a weighty, heavy subject, and what do they know about it, so because they are seen as the aggressor in this situation. So it was really nice that we could talk about slavery in those terms, and they didn't feel sort of guilty or uncomfortable about talking about it.